Forbidden Knowledge Television.
This is logged in on November 25th, 2023, Eastern Standard Time. Sensitive material has been breached and it is now in front of the public. This is very sensitive documentation and the world will be in total chaos if leaked, and it is now leaked. All of it. Not one document, all of it. Place of exploitation, Forbidden Knowledge Television. This must be stopped.
All right. Welcome, everyone. It's Billy Carson, a.k.a. Forbidden Knowledge. Tonight is going to be a great, great night. We have an amazing guest. We have Randall Carlson. I call him a living legend. The man is phenomenal. His acumen for geology and the ancient civilizations and how he ties it all together is just mesmerizing. He's also been on Joe Rogan and many other incredible podcasts. So I'm looking forward to this talk tonight. So make sure y'all click that like button and make sure you share the video because we have Randall Carlson in the house. It's going to be amazing. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, Randall?
Well, hello, Billy.
All right, man. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you, man. It's not quite as good as seeing you in person, the actual, real, live, breathing Billy Carson. But, hey, a digital facsimile will have to do, right?
Yeah, that's right. A digital facsimile. That's incredible. Yeah, I'm glad we have technology, man, to be able to allow this to come together. Or some, in some ways, a lot of these new collaborations might not happen on the same time scale that they've been happening in these days.
You're right. Yeah, it's quite a change from when I was coming up. You know what we had to work with back in the day. And we're talking now, hard to believe, literally a half century ago. You wanted to communicate something, you went down to the local coffee house or restaurant or billboard in the park, and you put a notice up, that some people could walk by and look at, and then typically what you would do is at the bottom you would have, like, if you wanted them to contact you, you would have the page, right? And then at the bottom, you'd have the number maybe 20 times, and you would cut little, so they were like little pieces that you could like rip off at the bottom. Right. So that's how you would, okay, now you could go home and you could go to your landline, take that off the wall, call them up and say, yeah, I mean, I understand there's a rally, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, so we've come away since then. And of course, compared to, that was advanced compared to what my dad and grandpa, or my parents and grandparents, how they had to communicate. So we've come a long way, Billy, in a very short period. In your talk at the what was the name of the conference?
We were just Ancient Civilizations.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned that. You mentioned about how quickly, how rapidly our civilization has evolved in a few generations. That's a point that I frequently make as well. It is quite remarkable what has happened, this exponential curve, if you will, over the last 4 or 5 generations. I go back to my grandparents who were born in the last few years of the 19th century, the 1800s, right? Well, we had trains, right? Trains have been around since just before the Civil War, but still, most people were getting around by horseback or horse-drawn carriage or on foot or mules. They were still, when my grandparents were born, we were still in the era where there was a career that you could make for yourself, where you carried a shovel and you went down the streets and you moved off the horse dung to keep the streets clean. That career option really doesn't exist anymore, at least not in America.
Yeah, but, thankfully.
Thankfully.
They've got it in China. I mean, not China. They got it in Egypt, in Cairo. You still have people cleaning the horse dung out of the street, and it's a mess. But yeah, we've really come a long way. Like I talked about at the Quest for Ancient Civilizations, and shout out to Robert Dakota for putting that on. at Worldviews Media. We came from a horse, buggy, and carriage 100 years ago till now. Today we have remote control cars. We call them rovers on Mars.
Yeah.
We have Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 heading into interstellar space. We've got the Huygens probe that, we've sent missions that went out to Titan and landed on Titan. We've done so many incredible things, and now we're getting ready to crack the code on this whole longevity thing, with telomeres and understanding how to lengthen telomeres and life extension, other life extension techniques and so forth, and AI and new systems are beginning to really peer behind the veil and discover ailments and things and cures for things that we didn't even know before. So we're on the edge, man, of something really great right now. And of course, the technology we have now and the ability to travel gave us the ability to get out to places like where you just came back from, the Azores, right?
Yeah. Well, not so well. In the days of my grandparents, you would have had to sail by ship. It probably would have been 7, 8, 9 days. I flew. It was a 6-hour flight out of Boston to get there. Let's see. Well, we got a tailwind going there, so it was an hour quicker going than coming back. But yeah, I mean, so now we have the ability to visit places around the world, unprecedented from a few generations ago.
Right.
I mean, you think about those early explorers and those guys, that you think of Darwin on the Beagle, you think of Humboldt, and you think of many of those early explorers / scientists and naturalists, they were called back then, who went to these places. Well, I mean, to go to 3 or 4 places essentially took years of their life, and now we can go visit. There's probably no place on the planet that we couldn't get to in 2 days maximum.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. It's really incredible. This is why we have to take advantage of the abilities that we do have right now, and so if you have a passion for something and the ability arises for you to take advantage of that passion, and I think that sitting on your butt and doing nothing is like, a travesty. And
it's a travesty, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And you mentioned, life extension. We also have the means at our disposal for intelligence and enhancement. The two, to me, would go hand in hand. I often think about some of the great scientific minds, philosophical minds of the ages and of the world, because every culture around the world produces its geniuses who are prophets in their own right, who are innovators. What I'd like to see happen in the next decade is we start coming together, those of us who love free thinking, who believe that in the golden age, and we start pooling our resources around the world. And I think that's sort of one of the ideas you were advocating at the Quest for Ancient Civilizations, which I really resonate with that. And the idea of expanding into the cosmos, I think that is our destiny. And if we don't fulfill that destiny, we're probably going to become extinct, at least not necessarily as a species, but as a civilization.
Yeah.
We just, like Plato said, we may find ourselves going back to a barbaric existence in the aftermath of the next catastrophe. But if we move beyond, like you just said, we have this opportunity now where we can move, we can accelerate our progress, we can move ahead and get to a point where we've established the resiliency as a civilization to be able to deal with whatever nature or the cosmos is going to throw at us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And, before we talk about the Azores, you just brought something up, a point that really resonates with me. The fact that our sun is about only middle-aged, right? It's only lived about half its life. I don't think a lot of people realize that our own sun is going to expand past and beyond this Goldilocks zone as it runs out of fuel and turns into a red giant, and it's going to just expand. And as it expands out, it's going to just destroy and incinerate Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars will be completely incinerated as it expands out before it eventually collapses back down to a white dwarf. That's about 5 billion years from now. But, hey, if we don't do something as a civilization, if we can survive our current situation and get beyond some of the things that are dividing us, the next mission for us should be is, like you say, spacefaring race, a race of people that can come together and create breakaway civilizations. And if we realize that our sun is expanding and eventually going to swallow us up and destroy our planet, maybe other civilizations in Goldilocks zones had realized the same thing was going to happen with their sun, and maybe they did leave and create breakaway civilizations. I mean, it's something that we would do. It's just a hypothesis,
You're right. I think that certainly within the big picture, such a possibility looms before us. In the more immediate, though, is the two things that I think are the major threats to Earth right now: cosmic hypervelocity impact and a hyperactive sun. Those to me are the two things that we've come to realize over the last 20, 30, 40 years really have been had profound effects on the evolution, not only of life on Earth and the biosphere, but human civilization as well. And this is one of the things now we really need to start factoring into our long-term thinking, because I'm going to do a podcast on Wednesday with Stefan Burns, the astrophysicist, and we're going to be talking about, I hope he wants to talk about this, but threats to the Earth and the idea of comets and the critical role that comets have played in every aspect of the appearance of life and the destruction of life, providing the raw materials for creating the biosphere, creating the world that we see in that image behind you there. And what they do is we now know there's a massive reservoir of these comets. There's a spherical one, the Oort cloud, and then that grades into a disk that begins outside the orbit of Neptune and then extends out to the inside of this great cometary shell. Now, those comets tend to be organized into what I would call quasi-stable orbits. They're slowly rotating the sun, not as an organized system, but oftentimes individually. The Kuiper disk is rotating, and there is a mechanism, presumably on a galactic level, that is responsible for causing those comets that are relatively stable to become dislodged from their position and begin a sunward journey. Now, when that happens, and once they come inside the realm of the big gaseous giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, things start happening. They wake up, they become active, they begin to disaggregate, they begin to come apart, and one, just like we saw in 94 with Shoemaker-Levy 9, one nucleus became 21 separate objects. Now, those 21 separate objects can go through their own stage of fragmentation, and you could end up with hundreds or even thousands of objects. This is the unrecognized threat of mainstream. Now, there is a group of scientists that have been working on this literally for 30 or 40 years, studying comets and the life cycle of comets, and the evidence that these fragmentation events periodically or cyclically can cause a much accelerated, enhanced threat to the Earth. Secondly, and if you want, we can pull up later in the show, we can pull up this video that I want you to see. And it was a video that was taken simply without planning, but what it showed, it happened to catch just the right moment when we see a comet, hypervelocity comet, accelerating into many miles per second, plunging into the sun. And what happens? The sun responds to that. And so we may be looking at the emergence of a holistic model here, Billy, where the kinds of things, the influx from this outer realm of our world, of our solar system, can literally translate into changes in the sun, the solar output. And it could be that the cycles of cometary
bombardment,
are related to cycles of hyperactive solar activity. And we know, have you heard of the Carrington event? Yeah, okay, I figured you had. Well, there's evidence now that within the last 2,000 or 3,000 years, there has been at least 3 other events similar to Carrington, except double the power, even 10 times the power of the Carrington event. We know that that's a possibility now, right? And we've also discovered that those events, the Miyake events, they're being called after the researcher that first wrote the papers on it. She's I forget, she's Japanese or Chinese, I forget which. But anyways, we now know that's a case. And you know, what would happen if one of those events occurred right now is basically all the electronics pretty much on Earth are going to go down. They're going to go down, and it's going to take months to repair or restore. And what's going to happen when we've got an entire world run on this?
Microprocessors and microchips. How do we get back in communication to even coordinate a repair effort? If we have another Carrington Plus event, how do we coordinate? How do EMS or emergency services communicate with someone who needs help in a certain particular city or area? It just can't happen. We'd be combined. We then coalesce into smaller and smaller organized groups, and we may not necessarily be even aware of what's going on outside of our local group.
That's exactly right. And you know what? I think what you just described, Billy, is sort of the model of what's happened in our own history. When small groups of survivors have become completely isolated from each other. And of course, in that circumstance, you might think, how do you know that the whole world hasn't been destroyed? How do you know? You see no other tribes, no other groups. You have no way of communicating. You're surviving in a wasteland, which is the aftermath of the catastrophes, these natural catastrophes. So, you know, you're going to be pretty much wholly preoccupied just with day-to-day survival, for one thing. We're not ready for it.
No,
that's a point, I think, a message that both you and I are trying to get out. We are not prepared. We could be prepared. That's the thing. But what it comes down to, and I'm sure we're going to see eye to eye in this, it's a matter of priorities.
True.
And there's a giant roadblock right now, and it's a political roadblock. That's keeping people stupid, keeping people distracted, keeping people, you know, preoccupied with things that are not essential in the big from the big picture.
Absolutely. It's a fact. I mean, we could be preparing for this type of potential event from now, which is just on geological timescales, could be right around the corner, by protecting our electronics in a way that can maybe shield from an event like this. Even if we have a slight warning that this event's heading our way from a CME, a coronal mass ejection, there could be a certain shield that we operate within, or something that we activate or turn on to kind of shield the bombardment, all of our microchips from the bombardment of these cosmic rays that could damage them and put us back into a caveman status. You know?
You're right.
It's just crazy.
We don't know what means we would have access to in order to create that resilience and that adaptability and the hardening of our systems, perhaps to keep them from going down in the event of something like that. But we're just not putting the time into it. We've gotten, you know, I've been obsessed and really studying for decades, literally since the 70s, is climate change within the context of, you know, what happens with the onset of an ice age and what happens at the end of an ice age. You know, what is the Younger Dryas? I didn't hear about the Younger Dryas until the 80s, but realized that, you know, well, hey, here's this event. And the more I've learned about the Younger Dryas, the more I realize, oh my gosh, it's, oh, look at this. The more I look at of the Younger Dryas, the more I realize, okay, that is probably shaping up to be, not probably, almost certainly shaping up to be the most significant environmental change event since we humans have been on the earth. I mean, modern humans, assuming, and I'm using here 200,000 to 300,000 years for the time that we moderns, you know, if you were stripped down to a skeleton and I was, there'd be really no difference really between us. And an anthropologist could look at you and look at me and go, okay, this is Homo sapiens sapiens. But this other skeleton is different. This is Neanderthal. Look at, he's shorter, but look how much stockier and heavier those bones are. Look at the brow ridge. Look at these deep. You'd say, yeah, that's a different kind of a hominid, right? And one time, as you know, I'm sure, there have been as many as 20 other hominid species besides us. And we're like we are the last man standing.
Yeah. We
right?
went through the gambit.
We did. We sure did. Yeah, we did. And here we are. So
Yeah.
it's come down to us.
Yeah.
Are we going to be stupid and fight amongst each other and dumb down and bullshit? Or are we going to rise above that and realize we got to come together as a planetary species? And whether we like it or not, we've been assigned by the cosmos, by the divine order, however you want to characterize it, as the guardians of this planet. And then simultaneously, by default, guardians of our own civilization.
Yeah.
Are we up for that? I think we are.
Yeah.
High
we
five,
are.
brother.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're ready for it, man. We just have to let people know, remember who we truly are. Like Graham always said, mankind is a species with amnesia. And so it's all about podcasts like this and the ones that you do and many others that just slowly waking people up to remember who we are and what our real mission and purpose is on this planet, because our time here is so precious. I just look at little things like the inner Oort cloud and the outer Oort cloud, and I'm going, that's a lot of debris that came from the formation of this solar system. A lot of collisions, and even giving some time for maybe some habitable moons and some other habitable planets to develop, just to be trashed and collide with something else and turn into dust. It's just incredible that we are living within this geological window of time where mankind is actually here, and we're able to thrive for this little micro window on the geological time scale. So it's up to us to really be able to take advantage of it. This really is a miraculous time to be alive. And you're right. We are like, the ones that made it through the gambit of different, I call them experiments of hominids, and we are the survivors of that. And so we're technically, potentially the strongest people to ever live. And we can't take that for granted,
We cannot take that for granted. Yep. Yeah. Can I share a graph?
Yeah, let's do it.
Really drives home. Okay, so let's see if I can. Let's see here if I can do this simply. I've usually done this with no trouble. Let's see if I've got it set up here. Screen 3. Yep, I'm going to allow, and then you'll just have to. It'll be in the back room. You got to.
Gotcha. Boom.
There we go.
All right.
All right, so can you see my cursor moving?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so very quickly, what we're looking at here is picture a core drilled from the ice at the summit, the thickest place of the ice in Greenland, all the way to bedrock. Between 1988 and 1993, two teams, a European-led team and an American-led team, very close to each other, drilled two cores down to bedrock through the ice. You pull that out, picture it's about between 4 and 5 inches in diameter. It's hundreds of meters long. And now you ship that off to a cold storage laboratory where it's put in the archives. And now scientists can go in there and they can look at this. And just like with tree rings, you have a layer laid down every year. And in each layer, you can count the layers. You know how many years you're going back. And you can look at things like, is there dust in there? Is there pollen? And the answer is always yes and yes. What kind of pollen? What kind of plants? Is there soot? What about the oxygen? Well, it's going to be mostly light oxygen 12, but there's going to be some oxygen 16, but then there's going to be some heavier oxygen 18. And that amount ratio between the two changes with temperature. That's well established, been studied for decades. So you got all of these proxies, right, that you can begin to look at through these ice cores to reconstruct past climate. So what we have here, if we look at this, if it goes to the negative ratio, that means it's getting colder. If it goes to the higher numbers, it's getting warmer. And then down the right side, we've got the number of thousands of years. So there's 1,000, 2,000. At the bottom here, we're at 10,000 years ago. Over here on the left, this is the depth of the ice core. So down here, at 1,500 meters down core, that ice was dated to about 10,000 years old. You see that 1,500 on this one and 10? Okay, you got it. Okay, it's pretty simple, really. Now, what you see here is that this is the temperature variations throughout the Holocene. And what that means is the Holocene being the last 11,000 years, roughly, right? And what you see here is each of these spikes represents roughly 2 to 4 degrees centigrade.
wow.
So what you're seeing here is very interesting because it's showing you that at least over Greenland, the climate is constantly variable, right? Sometimes it gets warmer for a decade, sometimes it gets cooler, right?
Yeah.
And you can go all the way down, and there's some interesting things we're not going to dive into here, but we see, like, notice here, about 2,400 years ago, there's this big spike of warming. Well, what happened here? I don't know. But something caused, and this might have, given the size of this, it could have lasted a year or two, or it could have lasted 10 or 20 years. We don't know from the precision of this scale, right?
Yeah.
But there was this warming spike. Could it have been something caused the sun to become activated? Perhaps. I think that's likely. Look here. Here's a spike of cooling. And you'll notice here this variability all the way down here. This is called the 8,200 year ago event. It lasted a couple of hundred years, and it was about 2 to 4 degrees colder than now. So this was pretty much a shock to the system right here. But then you get to the bottom, you start seeing how it's tapering off to the left. It's tapering off towards the colder side of the ratios. Well, this is as we're going back into the Ice Age. So let's see if I can go to the next slide. Let's see here. Okay, so this is good. I've taken the graph, I've flipped it up on its edge, and now I'm going to put, let's see, there should be, there it is. Okay, so that green line represents the present temperature. So we go right over here. This is now, right here. That's you and me having this conversation right here, all the way to the right.
To the far right,
To the far right. Now you go back 10,000 years ago, and look what happens. Notice that the predominance of the here is above. Notice how we're notice that this is above, and then we get below, and notice how in the last, say, 2,000 years, it's been predominantly below. Right? I'm sorry, I my little dyslexia clicked in. We are here, not here. This is the beginning. I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
Okay, so we're on the left. We're on the left. Where I'm sitting, so the left side is where we are today.
Where we are today, yes.
And the right side would be 10,000 years ago.
Yes, good. We got that clear. Okay, so notice that here the temperature is almost all below the green line compared to like here and here. Right back here, this is what we call the climatic optimum, which was 2 to 3 degrees warmer than now. In fact, I think a lot of the stories about Garden of Eden and stuff are probably have their roots right here in that immediate 2,000 years roughly post-Ice Age, with the exception of this 8,200 year ago event. We don't know what caused this. Perhaps something triggered a spasm of volcanoes. It could have been a cosmic impact causing a lot of dust in the atmosphere. It could have been the sun going into a really quiet period. It could have been a confluence of those things, right? We don't know yet, but there's been a lot of new studies that I haven't had time to look at yet. But what I want to do is, now that we get some context of the Holocene, and of course, 5,000 here, we could kind of consider this is sort of the start of what we think of as modern history, right? 5,000 years ago. Back here is we're seeing some of the first urban complexes 9,000 years ago showing up. Okay, so this gives us a context. Now, what I want to do is go here. So we're back to this graph now that we started with. And what we're going to do is we're going to push this graph down to essentially the length of time that modern Homo sapiens sapiens has been documented to have existed. Which is about 200,000 years ago, roughly. Okay, you ready for this? So this is what our ancestors were contending with in the world compared to what we've been contending with. And here we go. There's the line, and here we go.
Wow. Goodness.
What can you say?
That is incredible.
It is.
That's a huge swing. That's a huge temperature swing. That's enough to, kill a lot of plant life. That's a lot. That's enough to.
Yes.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. I knew.
Yeah.
I said, I got to show this to Billy because he's going to get it. He's going to see instantly that. And
wow.
You want to talk about global, what's this down here? Look at this global warming down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is incredible. This is really proving that these global warming and cooling are cycles, natural cycles of time on the planet, and not necessarily something created by cows passing gas.
That's right. That's right. In fact, for all we know, Billy, the cows passing gas may be staving off the next ice age.
Right. Exactly.
So,
a little methane assistance.
Yeah, the methane boost. Man.
Wow.
So,
this is incredible.
Yeah, this drives home the point that, for now, as the thing, one you got to keep in mind is you're going down core, of course, it's becoming compressed. So it could be that hidden in here, there is some other Holocene equivalents. But the evidence that I've seen said that the closest that we know of in the last 200,000 years to a Holocene, which is this right here, equivalent was the Eemian. Well, this is the Eemian right down here. Double E-M-I-A-N, Eemian. Well, guess what? Sea levels were at least 20 feet higher, maybe 30 feet in places during the Eemian. The Greenland ice sheet was only about half the volume that it is now. In fact, so much of it had melted away that there was a massive corridor east to west right across the whole Greenland large island. Wow. And what you had was not a single dome like you do now, but two separate domes. That's how much ice had melted on Greenland during this episode right here. Wow. So what we're looking at here is a vastly different world. And when we get back to the so-called Younger Dryas, now that's this area right in here. And I've got an enlarged view of that. Let's see if I can pull that up. There it is.
Man, look at that.
Look at this. So we've got, as it says here, two extreme global warming events at the end of the Great Ice Age. So here's the first one, right? And it's associated with a huge pulse of meltwater into the global oceans called Meltwater Pulse 1A, approximately 14,600 years ago.
Wow.
And then Meltwater Pulse 1B is associated with this spike of very rapid, intense warming. So you can see right here, the end of the Ice Age, which is this, is characterized by two very intense spikes of warming. And each of those spikes of warming is associated with a huge pulse of meltwater into the global oceans. Now, what's interesting to me about this second spike of warming, dated 11,600 years before BP is before present. Well, if we go read our Plato about Atlantis, and this brings its full circle back to the discussion of Atlantis, Plato gives that date several times in both Timaeus and Critias.
Yes, he does.
9,000 was the sum of years since Solon made that journey to Egypt. 600 BC, 2,600 years ago. Add 9,000 and 2,600. What do you get? 11,600.
Man.
That's when Plato says there was a big earthquake. The islands of Atlantis sank beneath the ocean, and they were drowned. Oh, coincidentally, precisely when there is a huge meltwater pulse, most of it going into the North Atlantic, that weighed roughly 10 quadrillion tons.
Oh my God.
Of water. I mean, inconceivable amount of weight.
Yeah. Wow.
What happened there? Well, I'll tell you what happened. Isostasy, a term that you can add to your vocabulary, which we know continental drift, plate tectonics is this motion. Isostasy is this motion of the Earth's crust. And when you take a multi-quadrillion ton ice sheet, remove it from the land rebounds. When you put all that weight into the ocean bottoms, the ocean bottoms subside. And where are they going to subside? They're going to subside along the zones of least resistance, which are the plate boundaries. And where is one of the biggest, most active plate boundaries on Earth? The mid-Atlantic. And right there where you have three plates come together, the North American plate, the Eurasian plate, and the African plate, all meet right there at that sunken Azores microcontinent. And right there is where you're going to have the most flexibility in the Earth's crust, right there.
Yeah, it makes sense. That intersection of those three plates, the Northern plate, the Eurasian plate, the African plate, right there, it's crazy because, you know, if you look back in time, you say, well, Atlantis, these were advanced people. They had an advanced civilization. And, you know, they built this advanced city, this amazing city beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Why would they build in a place that was going to be, you know, have a catastrophic geological disaster? Well, these time periods in between these catastrophes could be, on a human time scale, very vast, right?
Yeah,
could
that's
be thousands of years of dormant activity.
Yes, Billy, that's exactly right. And that, yes, if somebody's asked me that, I even say the same thing, what you just said. Another thing is that where, during the Ice Age, actually, where the Azores Plateau, and the working assumption here is that between 400-foot sea level rise and perhaps a mile and a half subsidence of the sea floor, we now, the place, the Azores microcontinent, as it's called, or the Azores Plateau, becomes mostly subaerial, meaning like submarine under the water, water over your head, subaerial, meaning air, atmosphere over your head. So if we want to sound educated, we'll use the term that the Azores microcontinent became, for a period of time, subaerial. Interestingly, during that, let's see if I have it handy. I might have a slide here that I could pull up, since we're talking about Atlantis now. And you know,
everyone in the live chat, make sure y'all click the like button and make sure you share this video. It's a great conversation tonight with geologist Randall Carlson. I mean, this man is a wealth of knowledge. It's an honor for me to be on this podcast talking to him and be able to kind of geek out and talk my geology stuff, but also learn from someone else that's a master at this information at the same time. So make sure y'all share this video out there. Make sure people start watching this. Let's get on that algorithm, all right?
Yeah, people. Come on, what are you waiting for? So, hey, this is a meeting of the minds here, and it's one I've been looking forward to for months.
Yeah, thank you.
Really, ever since I you know, 2 years ago, I didn't know much about you, Billy, and then your name kept popping up, and I was like, okay, who is this guy? Then I began learning more about you, and I'm going, okay, this guy is sounding right on. I mean, it sounds like he's got his thumb on the pulse of what's going on.
Wow, thank you.
So I had the sense that, yeah, I'm sure he and I are going to be collaborating at some point. And here we are. We met at the Cosmic Summit, and here we are now. And I'm sure we'll be crossing paths more. And who knows, maybe we'll get out in the field and do some expeditions together.
I'd love to. That'd be an honor. That'd be phenomenal. That would be great, man. Looking forward to that. We got to manifest that one.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So, and you know, you're expanding your reach. I'm expanding mine. And there's a lot of podcasters out there doing really good work. And I think what's happening is we are, you know, slowly coming together as a global community. You know, and we don't all have to agree on every point of everything. That's part of the process. But you know, we don't want to be part of these factions that are basically trying to shut down any questions that that go outside the mainstream narrative, the mainstream monopoly on information.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It's time for collaboration over competition, and having conflicting points of view doesn't mean we're not growing and learning together at the same time. That's what science is really all about.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share another screen.
Okay.
and we'll look at this interesting graph here. This shows sort of the ocean floor. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Okay.
While I'm getting us lined up, screen 3. Yep. Okay, here we go. Okay, I am in the waiting
I see it on my side. Here we go.
There we are. Okay. So, obviously you can see here, you've got North America, South America, and here is the Azores Plateau right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then just south of there are a cluster of seamounts, which are these flat-topped mountains. And what we're seeing here, this red dashed line, is the route of the Gulf Stream. Now, you know that one reason, like if you look at a map of the world and you're looking at Europe, you realize Europe, like England, is as far north as like Nova Scotia and areas of Canada that are extremely cold. Well, why is the British Isles relatively warm? Well, it's because the Gulf Stream is carrying this warm water up here. Like one of the differences is that now the Gulf Stream is called that because it actually goes into the Gulf of Mexico. But what you're seeing here is the edge of the continental shelf, which was very close to where the coastlines of the world would have been during the late glacial maximum. And so the flow in and out of the Gulf was very much restricted because there is this sill that the water's now 400 feet shallower. Well, during the Ice Age, the warm waters, equatorial waters, came up this way. And instead of going all the way up and reversing up all the way to Scandinavia, this is what they did right here. So imagine you've got an island complex right here. Look what the warm waters of the Gulf Stream are doing.
Yeah.
And what that suggests is that, wow, this was probably a pretty pleasant place to live.
Oh, yeah.
During the glacial maximum, right? Now, what does Plato describe? He describes the lay of the major island as being mountains to the north descending to a plain at the south. And then we have Neptune's trident, which I think is I call it Neptune's trident because there were 3 major undersea mountains right here that were probably islands off the shore of the main island here. And then, you know, what Plato describes, pillars of Heracles, that would be right here. And he says you go out and you come to a cluster of islands in this journey. Then you come to the Atlantis, and then beyond that lies the real continent that he calls, that is surrounded by the true ocean. And then he says what's inside the pillars of Hercules is only like a harbor compared to the true ocean that's outside, which of course is the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
So Plato's geography is right on, and he clearly seems to have had knowledge of the fact that there existed the North American continent, because look, you're sailing from here, here's your sojourn, and from here you do a layover, and then you sail on, and look, then you're in America. And I think this goes back to the idea that, because, I mean, look, we had people inhabiting North America during the Ice Age and much, much beyond that.
Yeah.
So that whole mystery about where did the people in North America come from, right? Well, first of all, you know, Clovis weren't the first. That's pretty obvious. So we were here long before 13,000 years ago. In fact, I make the argument that Africans were here. I think Africans clearly left their fingerprints in Central America, which meant that there was an African-based seafaring culture that had navigational skills, which meant astronomical and mathematical skills. All of that follows. I mean, I think from my own research, I think the Olmec culture was based out of Africa. And that's a really interesting facet of history that I think has barely even been explored yet.
Yeah, it's barely been tapped on. I read a book called They Came Before Columbus, which talks about this and talks about having an African seafaring race. And I found this one fragment of a tablet, a Sumerian cuneiform tablet, which mentioned people from Africa traveling across the ocean to get to the Americas.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. And that's what I think, you know, they became the Olmec culture. And they were just like, I think every culture, I'll call them the outsiders. We don't know who they were, you know, whether they were gods or just more scientifically advanced people or whatever. But it's clear when you look at the mythology of all of these post-apocalyptic, post-ice age, post-catastrophe cultures, they talk about being visited by outsiders, by, whether it's Egypt, it was Osiris, Iris, Tehot, and the rest of that pantheon of gods. The Central American, they have their counterpart parallel myths. Native Americans, same thing, right?
Yeah.
We can go around the world. Who were these people, or what were they? And I think the most prosaic explanation is just that they were the ones that, when the last catastrophe happened, we had two types of survivors, just like Plato describes. One group survived just because of the luck of the draw. They just happened to be in the right place at the right time. They survived, but they inherited a world that had been basically devastated, and their primary focus was simply surviving and perpetuating the race. On the other hand, you had people, and I think the myths and what we know about ancient history supports this notion that there was people that survived because they had pre-knowledge or foreknowledge, and they prepared and put the pieces in place so they could survive. And in the aftermath of that, they come forward, and part of their plan of survival is we are going to preserve the knowledge, the philosophy, the science, the technology in some form or another. And when the world is recovered enough, we will go forth and we will begin to share what we have preserved with the rest of our brothers and sisters who, survived. Their ancestors survived by luck. They've now perpetuated, they've rebuilt. And I think that's why it took till 5,000 years to actually build civilization as we knew it, because for one thing, in the aftermath of the Younger Dryas, I would guess conservatively 80%, maybe 90% of the human race didn't survive.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it, Billy. Yeah, think about it. Think about the megafauna that didn't survive.
Yeah.
Right? Half of all species on Earth that were more than 100 pounds in body weight got wiped out. Didn't survive.
The huge sloths, all the giant sloths and the saber-tooths and all those mammals, all those large mammals, they all disappeared.
They all disappeared. And are you going to tell me that whatever event was able to exterminate half of all the species on Earth, number one, didn't leave the rest of the species unscathed? Their numbers were probably drastically reduced, almost certainly drastically reduced, but it's easy to miss, because think about the analogy that I use is think about the American bison. Roaming the plains in the mid-1800s in the millions. By the turn of the century, reduced to a few hundred individuals. Well, now we can go into the grocery store and we can buy bison burger.
Right.
Okay, so the species completely recovered, right? Now, if you're looking back from 10,000 years, you could easily miss the fact that American bison literally came within an inch of becoming extinct themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So what I'm getting at is that it's almost certain that the survivor species that made it through the Younger Dryas also suffered severe mortality.
Yeah.
And then it would also follow humans would have suffered the same in those same environmental catastrophes that were wiping out the megafauna. Are you going to tell me and argue that, they didn't affect humans?
No.
Of course.
It definitely affected humans, for sure. Absolutely affected humans in a great way. Obviously, with that type of a catastrophe, and you see the stories of this type of a catastrophe happening all over the world, no matter which culture you visit, they have a very similar story. And so this was a very strenuous time on mankind for us to come up out of this and survive it in these small pockets, and then again expand out gradually. So we faced the edge of extinction, literally, and we then began to recoup our numbers and expand out again to the point where we have now 8 billion people on Earth. That's why I said earlier, we're the strongest people to ever live, because we're the offspring of those survivors. You know, it's incredible.
We are the offspring, the progeny of those survivors.
Yeah.
And it has to do with, I think, the combination of strength and intelligence. Because I think the foreknowledge factor is critical in that.
Yeah.
And again, you know, you're invoking the ancient traditions. We find that theme over and over and over again. It's that there was some select few, by whatever their merits or whatever, they had foreknowledge that something was impending. The great flood is going to come and wipe everybody away. And if you don't prepare, right, it's up to you now to preserve the remnants of the, you know, the way I read Noah, you know, it says 2 and 2 of every animal. Well, I think that, you know, that's basically what it's describing, is that if we were faced with something again, we would create arcs, and we would be bringing in as much genetic diversity as we could.
Right.
Not necessarily literally a mating pair, but of course maybe that too. But we would be looking at genetic diversity to repopulate the planet as much as possible. Yeah,
we'd create a DNA bank, and we'd have that bank ready to restore all the living, the flora, the fauna, and even the majority of the animals, especially the livestock, because we'd need that. You know.
But do we have to bring back wood ticks? Can we leave those out?
The wood ticks, the mosquitoes, we can get rid of those. We don't have to reincarnate those people. Those entities.
Those people. Interesting though, I know some people that I would equate with being equivalent to a wood tick.
Yeah.
I won't mention any names though.
No. So I know that you just came back from this amazing trip to the Azores, and you kind of mentioned earlier, you know, the plates that come together, the Northern American plate, the Eurasian plate, the African plate in that area. It's like this Azores triple junction. And of course, you just had up on the screen there the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which runs directly through the archipelago. And then you have the Azores Plateau, which is like a large volcanic plateau kind of just rising up from the ocean. So we have all this volcanism, we have earthquakes, we have rift zones, we have, you know, all this activity, hydrothermal activity happening. And so do you think it'd be possible with all this activity that has happened in that region to find any remnants of maybe some type of advanced civilization, or even any civilization from back then, with all that activity that's happened?
Well, Billy, you make a very good point. And in my mind, you've just asked the fundamental question. Because as my reading of Plato, I look at, there's basically 2 dimensions to his story. One of them is mostly centered in Timaeus, and the other one is mostly centered in Critias. In Timaeus, we get a full explanation of his geology and his geography. He even brings in some mythology and astronomy. And when we follow those lines of thinking, what we find is that there's a very consistent possibility that emerges from there, that because of this isostatic motion up and down of the Earth's plate, and what plates along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, and what we have seen is empirical evidence that, you know, right now, for example, there appear to be what look like shorelines around the Mid-Atlantic, around the Azores microcontinent that look like submerged shorelines, that look like coastlines. Exactly. And then just off of those shorelines, and this is a mile to a mile and a half down, they are finding, or have found, because I don't know if anybody's looking for it now, but going from the 40s up to the 70s and even 80s, finding over and over again the evidence of shallow water microfossils. In other words, creatures that were living in less than 100 to 200 feet of water, ocean water, are being found off of these things that look exactly like shorelines.
Wow.
Right. Well, so really what we get down to is that there is empirical evidence that perhaps that continent, that microcontinent, was much higher. Because if you think of it like this analogy, think of a beach ball. And it's perfectly spherical, but if I compress it along its equatorial plane, its polar plane, it bulges equatorially. And then if I let go here, it'll, let's say, resume the geometry of a sphere. Well, the Earth is basically the same thing. The subject that tells us about the movement of the Earth's material under stress or under pressure, how it would flow and respond to that, is called rheology. 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 It's rheology that tells us how the Earth's material is going to deform and flow and stuff as you add pressure to it. What that seems to suggest is the real possibility that this compensation that occurs when ice is removed, say from the North American continent, around the region of Hudson Bay in Canada, where the ice might have been close to 2 miles thick, the land has been rebounding. It's already rebounded about 1,500 feet.
Wow.
It's still rebounding, but much slower. Early with the removal, it was moving much faster, and now it's slowing down, and it'll eventually reach equilibrium. Well, the Earth's geoid is always trying to maintain equilibrium. So if it goes up in one place, it needs to go down somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So that if you take the sum of all the points on the spherical surface, add them up, they're all going to be the same, no matter the shape. As long as you have the same volume, you can change the shape, see? And that's what's happening. And I think that's the explanation for Atlantis, because there's evidence of major subsidence all along the mid-Atlantic ridge. Then you get to that triple junction. If it's okay with you, I have a really cool map here. Let's see.
Let's pull it up.
Let's see, what slide am I on here? Slide 206. Let me...
A lot of great comments in the live chat. I see a lot of people a lot of great energy in the live chat. So thank y'all for the positive energy in the live chat. I really appreciate it. And thank you. I saw the shares go up significantly, and we jumped over 1,100, 1,130 in the live stream. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Okay. So sorry, this is taking a moment only because I'm wanting to get us to the slide where we can see the, let's see, I guess I'm going to take a shortcut here.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually, where that lake that's behind you, that's a volcanic caldera there. 4 weeks ago, I was standing kind of right about where you are.
Wow.
Looking at this in person and going, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the Azores behind me, everyone in the live chat, whoever's watching, wherever you are in the world. I put the Azores behind me in this graphic just so you can kind of see. This is where Randall just got back from the Azores on the hunt for evidence of Atlantis. It's amazing. This is a beautiful place. I can't wait to visit this place. Wow. Breathtaking.
It was. And, there's actually 9 islands in the complex. I was... with the group I was with, we were only had, I'd had to stay I'd had to have to stay a whole month if I was going to visit all 9 islands. So we only visited 4 islands.
Yeah.
But the first one, São Miguel, oh my God. I thought as I'm traveling around São Miguel, it was like, this is like a garden. The whole thing is like a garden. And I'm thinking, if I was going to imagine what the Garden of Eden would look like, this is it.
Wow.
This is it right here,
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I think this is, here we go. Okay, so I am now going to do a share screen.
Okay.
And we will look at this. Here's. All right.
Okay, I see it here on my side. Boom. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Look at this.
Yeah, look at this. So here's your microcontinent, the Azores Plateau, all of this in here. And this, you can actually clearly see the triple plate junction. So here's the mid-Atlantic ridge. All of this over here is the American plate. The Eurasian plate is here, and here comes the boundary. And then the African plate is this down here.
Wow.
And you can see that the triple plate junction actually splits the microcontinent. And then, what Plato describes, he says there was magnificent mountain range to the north, and then it descended into a plain towards the south.
Yeah.
And then the city that he describes in Critias was apparently down in the south. So, and then these are the seamounts, these submerged mountains here. So let's see, I should have there we go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there we've got the Azores, and that's the islands here. We have the Atlantis seamount, as it's called. Somebody apparently had Atlantis in mind.
Oh, yeah.
And we have the Plato seamount. Okay, I like that. Great Meteor seamount. Now, that's named after the ship, but really, when you start thinking that it's likely that a great meteor was involved in the Younger Dryas and the melting and the catastrophe, that seems to fit well, too. Cruiser seamount, I don't know. I don't know where that came from. But anyways, these are the seamounts. And then here's the microcontinent or plateau itself. And then it descends. So the only part you can see right here, the islands are the peaks of mountains. So that scene behind you is you're actually at the top of a volcano.
Yes.
And that volcano is filled with water.
Right. Is it a caldera?
It's a caldera, yes.
Yeah.
All right. You get you're getting, I'm going to have to give you at the end of this, Billy, you're definitely getting at least one gold star. For at least one. A gold star and maybe an attaboy or two. No,
I'm into this stuff. I love this stuff, man. I just love it.
Well, it's obvious you've been doing your homework, and I so appreciate and cherish when I get somebody that I'm having a conversation with that actually has done some homework, knows some of the terminology, has the concepts, and then those are the kind of people who are like, okay, I'm just super enthused about sharing what I've learned over decades and decades of study with whomever is receptive to it, because I want to hand this off to people that I think are worthy of receiving what I've labored over for so long. So I always feel gratitude when I meet someone who, okay, here's a person who seems to get it.
Wow.
It's not just a fad with them. This is, they've done their homework. They're putting in the time. Yeah, so here's the kind of candidate. Here's the fruits of. Now, I don't have everything right, but I've been putting this stuff to the test for a long time. So
yeah, man.
Anyhow, let's go to the next slide. Here you can kind of see an oblique view, and here you can see the Pillars of Hercules right here, Straits of Gibraltar, and what it probably sunken islands, just like Plato says. If you sail west, you come to a cluster of islands, and beyond that is the empire of Atlantis.
Wow.
And remember, think about one of the biggest empires in recent history has been the British Empire. And that whole empire is being run from an island really not much bigger than this.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So to say that they could have had an empire, and clearly we know this now. We know that islands were being inhabited 50,000 years ago. Well, it tells us early humans, obviously 50,000 years ago, had navigational, seafaring skills, right?
Yes. Yeah. We could see that with Easter Island and the Rapa Nui. We could see that they navigated, across the ocean, man, to get to the islands.
Yeah, there you go again, Billy. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, exactly. So you've already thought about that, right?
Yes,
exactly.
sir.
So when it's not a stretch to think that people could have occupied. Now, if you were going to ask me if I had to estimate or just speculate when I think people might have occupied this, I would guess between 30 and 40,000 years ago.
Okay.
The reason is because there was an amelioration of the deep severity of the ice sheet between 30 and 40,000 years ago. And it could have meant that there was a much more larger inhabited region here, because we'd have to go back. Obviously, if 15,000 or 20,000 years ago it was above water, right? But I'm going, okay, let's assume that Plato's timeline is relatively correct. How long would it take a civilization to go from essentially colonizing a large island to becoming prolific and creating a civilization that could basically now have seafaring capabilities as Plato described. And we're not talking about flying cars or laser beam weapons or any of that, because Plato doesn't talk about any of that.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't have advanced technology. I'm not categorically ruling that out. But for purposes of the initial discussion, we don't need to go there.
Right.
What Plato describes is an advanced seafaring culture. Something maybe like the Minoans or the Phoenicians that knew how to navigate, if nothing else, at least the Atlantic Ocean, and probably did. Now, that is not such an outrageous stretch of the imagination.
No. And you're getting into the timeline of what I've been talking about for the last decade. Actually, no, close to 15 years, technically. Wow, time is flying. Is my hypothesis that we could be looking at a 36 to 40,000 year old advanced civilization in some cases that were inhabiting these islands. And I get that information predominantly, believe it or not, just by reading the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. I know some people try to say, well, these things could be mysterious or maybe they didn't exist, but a lot of the science, a lot of the wording, a lot of the historical information is aligning with modern geology. So you can't ignore it. Somebody knew something somehow, some way. And whether it came from the 1800s or whether it came from 36,000 years ago, it's describing, in my opinion, something that people from that time frame, that 36 to 40,000 year time frame, had some knowledge about.
Yeah, and when you say that, the reason I say that, picked out on that, is because when the glaciers there was sort of a break. They say the Wisconsin Ice Age in the Western Hemisphere was 120,000 years, right? Well, there were several breaks within that, and we go back to that Greenland graph I showed you. We can identify where some of those breaks would have been. Now, those breaks are when sea level would have risen, right? I would argue that it was when sea levels were low and the microcontinent stood up at a higher elevation, that's when it would have been initially colonized. And we can go, the last great expansion of the ice sheets, which would have caused perhaps a rising up of the plateau, was between 30 and 40,000 years ago. So now that gives, how many thousands of years would you need? Obviously, I think 5,000, 10,000 years.
Yeah.
You have time to become pretty advanced if you're not, because I mean, all you got to do is look how far, and you pointed it out yourself, look how far we've advanced in 200-300 years. So if we were able to proceed forward with advancement and the evolution of our technology and science, uninterrupted by catastrophes, where would we be in 1,000 years, 2,000 years?
Right.
Well, we can only speculate, but so I would say 5,000, 10,000 years is plenty of time to get from an initial colonization to an advanced civilization.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So then, then you've got a civilization that lasted up until the end of the Ice Age, and I think probably what would have happened, if I was to envision a scenario, is meltwater pulse 1A caused a rapid rise of about 100 to 120 feet in sea level.
Goodness.
Now, if you're an island civilization and sea level over a period of a century or two rises 100 feet, that's going to create challenges. Also, that rising sea level and that additional pressure on that vulnerable zone, let's say it creates enhanced volcanic and seismic activity. So now you have that on top of it, right? Yeah. So now you've got a culture that's under stress. That to me could be because what it's Plato describes. Well, they were advanced and they were moral and they were virtuous and they were righteous and they were spiritual, but something happened and they degenerated and then they became imperialistic and began to try to enslave people. Well, I'm thinking to myself, well, if suddenly their whole way of life and their whole civilization is under threat, could that be an incentive and impetus for them to go out? And I look at what have some modern cultures done that are basically at sea level. Take the Netherlands, Holland. How has Holland responded to the fact that they're at sea level and how they might deal with rising sea level, they built seawalls
Yes.
to hold the sea back.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
if you're trying to build seawalls on the scale here to hold the sea back from drowning Atlantis, you might think about, well, we might have to go get some slaves.
It would be a lot. I think that the amount of mass it would take to build a seawall to hold back the ocean from Atlantis, it would be so heavy it might even tilt the Earth on its axis.
Well, it would be extremely heavy. Yes, it would. Yeah, so there now, I think people can get this picture here of the Azores microcontinent sunken plateau. You can see right here, that's where the boundary, the suture line. Also, these, you've got the Made Ridge coming this way, and then at almost right angles, you've got these what are called transform faults, right? Well, the way I look at these, Billy, and this could be computer modeled, and people have done it, but if you can see my hands, think of like my interlaced fingers and the joints between my fingers, and those transform faults would be consistent with this. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
They're like the stretch marks.
Yeah.
They're like the stretch marks that we see there.
When Earth is spinning on its axis and the sun's the moon's gravitational forces are pulling on it as it kind of creates this warping effect. Does that also allow that to move, or is that something on a much longer time scale?
Because interestingly, satellite surveys of the Earth, every satellite survey ends up being a little bit different. Not by much, but a little bit different. And I think, think about this. When you think about the vast weight and volume and mass of the Earth's oceans, and yet the moon, the tidal forces exerted by the moon can cause the whole ocean in some areas to rise up many feet, right? Well, likewise, there's much water in the subterranean realm. That's all part of the hydrosphere. Do you think that that's not also being affected by the tidal forces of the moon? Of course it is.
Yeah.
And would not even the solid material of the Earth, it only makes sense, Billy, that there would be even earth tides induced by the moon. Now, of course, they'd be difficult to measure, and they wouldn't be anything like the scale of ocean tides. Yet, maybe under certain circumstances, some of that stuff can accumulate in effect, and that's kind of what we see along earthquakes. Stress builds up slowly along fault lines, and then it ruptures very quick.
Yeah.
Right? So you're building up that energy slowly, and then it reaches a threshold, and boom, it's released all at once.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of really good stuff here, Billy, that we don't have a chance to get into. Here we go. It's the seamounts. Look at this. Okay, here's the Great Meteor Seamount, and here's the cross-section of it. And we can see that the flat top of it is very close to the sea level.
Yeah.
But the base of the mountain goes down at the plateau level, see? So at one time, it looks like these were mountains that came up to actual points, but the top got sheared off. Let's see here. There should be, so here's Great Meteor Geo. Geo is one of the terms for it. And you can see the lines here, the topographical lines. So we could go down to, let's say we could pick one of these. Let's see, what is the scale do we have? I've done this before, but I don't remember. Contour interval, 100 meters. So that's 100 meters is 328 feet. So we could count down and say, okay, this line here is a 1 mile line. So if you dropped sea level 1 mile, this is going to be the coastline. Or if you drop it 1.5 miles, and I haven't done that. I did it when I first got this map, but I don't remember what it came up to. But it means that if you look at this, for every line, if I start at this line, the next line will be 100 meters lower, 100 meters. So there's 100 meters change in elevation between each of these lines. And I'm guessing if we look here from this darker line to this darker line, if we count, there's going to be 10 intermediate lines which means 10 times 100, so that's 1,000 meters. So
Yeah.
that's a kilometer, 3,280 feet. So if we go from here to here, that's 2 kilometers, or about a, you know, a little more than, well, 2 kilometers would be 6,000, about 6,400 feet roughly. So if we
Yeah.
were
A couple
dropped,
miles.
yeah, actually less than. So it's not that far out to say if sea level, if the plateau subsided by 1.5 miles, then you would go down basically 1.5 miles from this line right here, and it would be down in here somewhere, and that would have been the coastline.
Wow.
And here you got Atlantis seamount, and it's showing a flat top as well. And here's the contour intervals. And there's another map, which was originally the Atlantis seamount, and then somebody along the lines changed it to the Atlantic seamount, probably because, hey, we can't have any reference to Atlantis here.
Right.
Now here, this early on, we've known this. Nothing has changed this. This is a totally 100% accurate conclusion here. The possible tectonic implications, and I'll define this. Glacio-eustatic. Glacier, meaning glacier. Eustatic is the rise and fall of sea level along with the melting or expansion of the glaciers.
Gotcha.
So as the glacier melts, let's get over here. As the glacier melts, sea level rises. As the glaciers grow, sea level falls. So this is called eustacy or eustatic adjustment. So specifically related to the growth and shrinkage of glaciers on land.
Gotcha.
So you've got two parts.
Explains a lot. This is
what?
explaining a lot to me, because when I see areas like Dwarka and these other areas, the Bimini Wall and these other areas that are underneath so much water in the ocean, it begins to make sense now. This particular eustatic movement is potentially the reason why ice shelves melting and growing.
Yes. And I think the Bimini, relatively to what? It's not hundreds and hundreds of feet. I think it's fairly shallow.
Yeah, it's fairly shallow. It's not that deep.
It's
easy to dive to.
And, right, you can dive to it. So that means that when the eustatic sea level dropped 400 feet, Bimini was above water. Remember the term subaerial. I'm going to have you, Billy, talking like a professional geologist.
That's right.
Soon here now.
I have a pretty good memory.
I can see that, yeah. Okay, so the possible tectonic implications of glacio-eustatic sea level fluctuations have received only minor attention in connection with such problems as ocean floor spreading. The purpose of this report is to point out that late Pleistocene sea level data suggests that the ocean basins have responded isostatically and by a significant amount to the loading and unloading of water associated with Pleistocene glaciation. So right here, the hard science, and there's a lot more of this, is totally consistent with the idea of the ocean bottom adjusting up and down according to the loading of water, etc.
Right. It's very consistent with the story of Atlantis sinking in a day and a night.
Yes. And the thing of it is you probably would have some cumulative shrinking, but just like with a volcanic eruption or an earthquake, it crosses some threshold, right, of resistance. And at that point, the fault line, it's the pressure's building up, and then all of a sudden it crosses a threshold. It exceeds the sheer resistance, the frictional resistance of the rock masses. Boom! You got an earthquake. Yeah. Well, it looks like there were earthquakes along the mid-Atlantic ridge that coincide precisely with the dates that we're talking about here.
Yeah. Incredible.
And this going 71, going back. There is, however, and these were some of the leading scientists of oceanography and marine geology. There's, however, another class of fundamental features which lie slightly submerged beneath the oceans and are supported by crustal underpinnings nearly equivalent in draft to the continents. These are the microcontinents, small in size in comparison with the proverbial 7, and mostly covered by the sea. They constitute an enigmatic phenomena. Now get this, drowned by present and former sea levels. They have apparently lost their battle for survival as true continents and are gradually subsiding far beneath the waves. So again, we see science is consistent with the idea that you could have, talking about right here, microcontinents. That is exactly what the Azores Plateau is. It is fits right in the definition of a microcontinent. And here we're seeing they're drowned by present and former sea levels. So what here is so outrageously inconsistent with the idea that there could have been a large inhabitable island in the mid-Atlantic during the late glacial maximum? Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this is I'll stop the share after Neptune's
Before
trident.
you go to the, what is shearing the tops of these? What is creating that shear?
Well, we're coming to that.
Okay.
But so Billy, you're anticipating that question is the next. That's where I'm going with this. Okay. So, okay. So here you've got Great Meteor Seamount and Cruiser Sea, and you know they've got the flat tops, right?
Yeah.
All right. So now let's go before the shearing forces. That's what I'm calling Neptune's trident.
Gotcha. Wow.
Okay, let's see what they say. We have let's see. Which one here? I've got some commentary about, maybe I skipped it. Let's see. The microcontinents, where it's talking about that they paused. In other words, for a short period of time, this was at sea level. The flat top.
Gotcha.
And you had this very hyper energetic surf that basically, so think about this. You have a major subsidence, but it's subsided additionally since then. Like, look, up here, this is sea level. And as we saw here, let's go back to here. Look how close it is to sea level. So at one point, sea level was right here aligned with the flat surface of the seamount. For a long enough time that it eroded the top off and left it flat. And now either the sea level continued to rise, or this sank a little more, subsided a little more, or a combination of both, and it's now just under the surface, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did have, I had a slide in here somewhere where I was talking about, they're talking about, well, yeah, so here's the bathymetric sketch. So here's this that we just saw here. So this was in one of the journals, Heesen and Hollister, 1971, and here was the caption. Ancient sunken islands of the Eastern Atlantic. So they're willing to say, yeah, these islands are sunken.
Yeah.
But let me see now. I had lateral massive trend.
Great night in the live chat. Everyone's really supportive. A lot of positive, incredible comments in the live chat. I see y'all. Thank y'all for being here and just spending some time with us this evening. You know, and thank you to everyone who shared the video and liked the video. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please click the subscribe button. Usually about 1/3 of the people are not subscribed, so click the subscribe button and join us over here at Forbidden Knowledge.
So this is up in Canada next to Hudson Bay, and what you have here is a whole succession of elevated shorelines.
Wow.
Now, that's from the isostatic rebound. Once the ice mass has been removed, the land is coming back. And here's another version of it. And then this one here, the Hudson Bay is out here. So the first shorelines that were elevated were these here, right? Now, if we actually go and we were to measure the distance between each successive shoreline, what we would discover is the biggest ones were the first ones. And as we go closer to modern sea level, there's less and less space between them. Why? Because early on, the rise of the land was much faster. So you had the ocean there, but then a short time later, it had lifted faster and further because it's slowing down, see?
Yeah.
But let's see. I think we've got, okay, let's see. We go right here. Yes, this goes even back to 1896. He's saying here the increase after the removal of the ice there was up to 2,000 feet. But even that's not the center. That's near the periphery of the ice sheet where it was not nearly as much weight.
Wow.
I have mentioned ancient beaches as Nachvak, 140 miles south of Hudson Straits, which have an estimated altitude of 1,500 feet above sea level. Let's see what else. Yeah, in Canada, this is a more recent one. This is past sea levels, used to sea and deformation of the earth. In Canada, the total amount of rebound at the center of uplift was between 400 and 1,000 meters. Okay, well, 1,000 meters is a kilometer, 3,280 feet. Now, what we now understand about rheology, remember that term, is that the vertical movement should actually be much greater along those ridge zones and the plate boundaries than in the middle of the continental craton, if you want to call it that.
Right.
So if you're talking 3,280 feet under the center of the ice sheet, you could be talking about double that along the ocean floor.
Right.
Well, double that, we're now at 2 kilometers. And and you add that to the 400-foot sea level rise. Hey, we're now looking at, let's see, so 3,280 feet in a kilometer times 2 plus 400. We're talking 6,960 feet.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. So if we were to bring the land up that much, sea level down that much, we have a big island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. Huge. Lots of land.
Lots of land. And if it's in the middle of an ice age, that's probably, if you can coexist with the volcanic evidence, which is probably, though, relatively stable, because what we see is when the spike of ocean water started increasing, we see an increase in volcanic activity.
Yeah.
And it only makes sense.
Yeah. They're going to have submarine volcanoes.
Yep.
Yeah. They've got, I think it would be a great place to live actually during that time frame because the temperature will be kind of tempered. You'd be able to go outside. There'll be a lot of green grass, fauna. You can farm. Yeah.
And there were probably no great predators like around the rest of the world.
Right. Exactly.
You probably could go out, for a stroll and not be worried about getting consumed by a giant cave bear or a saber-toothed cat or a pack of dire wolves, or the list goes on and on.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that warm air coming up from the Gulf Stream and wrapping around would keep it just nice and good. What do you call it? When in Florida we have a lot of in the atmosphere humidity.
Humidity. Yep. It probably would have been a very nice place to exist. During the late glacial maximum. So, incredible. Anyways, there's a whole lot more we could obviously get into it in the Atlantis thing, but like Graham Hancock made the point in our conversation we did at the conference. He said, that the Atlantis story and the story of the worldwide great floods, that they're just part of the same story. And I said, well, absolutely, yeah. Because we can't talk about Atlantis without talking about sea level rise, without talking about all of the things that we've just been touching upon here, and what induces very rapid sea level rise? What induces these spikes, the meltwater pulses? Well, that is what explains the gigantic floods that occurred. The floods that have embedded themselves into collective human memory.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I've got some stuff I can show you on that that I think you're going to find fascinating. If you want to go there for a minute.
Yeah, sure. Let's check it out.
Okay.
Everyone's having a great time in the live chat. We're up to 1,262 people in the live chat right now. Thank y'all for hanging out. We got Randall Carlson in the house. He's bringing that real geological knowledge, that forbidden geology.
I like that. Forbidden geology. Yeah, forbidden geology. Well, it is in a way, because you can't even utter the word Atlantis, because then you immediately, no, it doesn't matter what else you have to say. It doesn't matter how much work you've done, how much time you put in. Yeah. You utter that word, you've just lost all credibility. So,
yeah.
It's
wild.
Wild is right. Let's see, where did I go?
But it's all changing. It's all changing now. We're bringing new awareness. And we're passing the torch on to the younger generation so they can have the alternative mind, and they can pursue all these researching all these things that we've talked about, and looking into them, and traveling the world, and keeping this whole thing going so that more and more people can become expansive.
Right. Yep. Okay, let's try to get this open here. It's okay, is this it? Oh, okay, I think this is it. All right.
Lakota native in the house from Sioux City.
The what now?
I just reading something from the live chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I tell you what, I'll show you a couple of things here. Let's get this up, and we'll share screen again.
Okay.
And
great topics to talk about. Always great to talk about these kind of topics, because they really, if you really understand what Randall's talking about, it's going to make you sit back and think. It's going to make you ponder what amazing events could have happened in the ancient past that created a lot of these quote unquote mythologies that we have today.
Exactly. All right, so this is a photograph I took out in Montana, just on the outskirts of the town of Missoula. And we're looking at a mountain called Mount Jumbo in Missoula. And you notice all these conspicuous horizontal
the terraces. Yeah.
Those are beaches. Those are shorelines.
Wow.
And the geological term is strand line. It was at one time a shoreline. Now it's a strand line, which is like a fossilized shoreline. Now, if you go from the valley floor, like from where I'm standing to take this picture, up to the uppermost strand line, it's 1,000 feet over my head.
Wow.
So it meant that at one time, 1,000-foot flow of water passed through this valley. It was 1,000 feet deep. All right.
That's incredible.
Here's another view where you can see shorelines up to here. This is 1,000 feet above the valley floor down here. And I like this quote from Genesis 7. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills were covered.
Yeah. This is evidence of the great flood. There's no doubt about it. This was a great flood.
Oh, this was an enormous flood.
And it didn't happen because it rained for 40 days. It happened because ice.
Yeah, you're right. But you know what? The rain played an important role in this whole yes, it did. And we can talk about that. Yeah, but first we're going to look at this. This is current rippled sand on the floodplain of the South Fork Peachtree Creek after Hurricane Ivan flooding. When was this? 2009? So what it was is, if you look just beyond my SUV here, This vegetation is growing along the banks of a creek, the South Fork Peachtree Creek, and it's about from here on the floodplain down to the level of the normal level of the water is probably about 14, 15 feet.
Okay.
Right. So Hurricane Ivan came through. Atlanta was right in its pathway. This area near where I live was right in its pathway. It dumped an enormous amount of rain. It filled up the creek channel, and it overtopped the rim of the channel, right? So it spread out on the existing floodplain, and when the waters drained away, it left this behind, which is current rippled sand.
Right.
Now, this has all been obscured since then. This was whatever, 15, 18 years ago. And then I've got a measuring tape stretched out here. And here you can see they're really quite beautiful features formed by water. And you'll notice here, this is 2 inches from the edge of the tape to here. So roughly we'd say the wavelength is about 2 inches. Vertically, from the trough to the ridge, it's about 3/4 of an inch.
Okay.
Right? So now, by doing a little detective work, by going around and examining some trees, examining some buildings that are sitting on this floodplain, I could easily discern the high water mark. There was a very clear little, on the trees, there was some sediment around the trees. On the buildings, you could see very clearly the high water mark was right at 2 feet. So this current rippled complex here was formed by about 2 feet of water at its maximum, charged with sand. Then as the water level is going down and down, it's slowing down because the more weight, the faster it's going to go, right? So as it goes down, it goes slower and slower. And then finally, it just starts depositing all of its sand. And then the final act is that it molds this sand into these ripples like you see here.
Gotcha.
But we got a ratio between, say, wavelength, which is horizontal, amplitude, which is vertical, and the flow of water, the depth of the flow of water. So there are some simple equations. Now, look at this. I took this from an airplane, 3,000 feet up, and we're seeing ripples.
It's a huge floodplain.
We're looking upwards here a couple of miles. And we see ripples up here that their amplitude from trough to ridge, 50 feet.
Goodness.
Wavelength from crest to crest or trough to trough, 200 to 300 feet.
Wow. That's a huge volume of water.
Yes.
Goodness.
And this is Montana. Travel across Idaho into the state of Washington to the Columbia River, and we find this. This is a gravel bar. Like if you're walking along any creek or river, you're going to see a sandbar. This is like a gigantic version. This is 3 miles long. It's about 200 feet thick, and it's all composed of huge boulders and gravel. And again, you see the ripples. Those ripples are on the same scale as the ones we just saw hundreds of miles away in Montana, and 50 feet at their max, 30 to 50 feet on the big ones, 200 to 300 feet wavelength on the big ones.
So we're talking about over great distances. We're still seeing this huge flooding.
We're still seeing, and guess what? This feature and the feature I just showed you are all part of the same flood. A flood that encompassed multiple states and huge parts of Canada as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, note 3-story building. Here, down here, you see that little white spot by the edge of my cursor is a 3-story building.
Goodness.
So it just gets lost. This feature has essentially been preserved intact for like 12 or 13,000 years now, because no modern forces since the force that created this thing have had anywhere near the power to even change this at all.
Wow.
It's too big. It's too massive. And here's a cross section, and I don't know if you can, let me see. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell there's a little man standing right there. Now,
Really?
yeah, you can barely. He's just a speck. Like I'm
Wow.
looking at him on a large monitor, so he's
I
barely
see.
more than a
I can
speck.
barely see him, but yeah, I just expanded
Yeah,
my screen a little bit.
I think he's wearing white pants.
Mm-hmm.
So look at the size of these ripples. Now look at the back, these cliffs, and then up against the bank, up against the cliff, are this big deposits of coarse boulders and gravel. Well, this is the stuff that compose. If you were to dig down into these ripples, it would be this stuff. Now, what you have to picture is that this cliff didn't exist. The floodwaters came rushing through here, and it sheared off and created these cliffs, ripped the material out the side of the cliffs. When the waters finally subsided, it splashed up. It pushed this stuff up against the base of the cliffs here, and then the final act, like I said, was the draining away of the water and the sculpting of these current ripple fields.
Wow.
But the cliff, the gravel deposits against the base of the cliff and the current ripples are all part of the same process.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, well, so much great evidence for this global flood. It's really, really through geology. Yeah, this is geology really shows it, man.
Yeah. Now, something else during this massive breakdown of the ice sheets, several things happened. You had rapid, extreme, catastrophic melting, but you also had enormous, wide-scale fracturing of the ice sheet. And you had enormous injections of water vapor into the atmosphere. So there you've got the flow of water. You've got transported in that flood water are hundreds or even thousands of what basically are huge icebergs. Now, on some of these icebergs, there are very large boulders that have been ripped out of the bedrock, and they're being transported and floated on icebergs, some of them the size of tanker ships, carrying enormous boulders. Now, look at this slide right here, and you see this big boulder? Now, you're going to, in a minute, there were two of my buddies were standing in front of this. I took them out. I'm going to put them in a second. But look up at the top of these hills.
Yeah.
You see, there's boulders of the same size up here on top of these hills. They're scattered over the hills. You see, there's one there.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's see if I put those two. First of all, an illustration that shows the transport mechanism. Huge, swift, cataclysmic flood currents, icebergs being floated in the flood currents. On some of the icebergs, you have huge erratic boulders. Now, think of this, Billy, as the water begins to slow down and subside, the icebergs that are being carried along, they will ground. They will come to ground, and they will stall wherever they basically come to ground.
Yeah.
The floodwaters drain away, and now what you're going to have is you're going to have a vast landscape of mud with hundreds of icebergs stranded in it. And some of those icebergs, like you see right here, have big boulders in them. The final act is the melting of those icebergs, which is actually something that takes a number of years, and it's a slow, relatively gentle process. So the final emplacement of these boulders is actually a relatively gentle process.
Wow.
But what transported them to that point was inconceivably catastrophic.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back to our big boulder here, and I'm going to put my two buddies in.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This kind of gives you some perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Wow.
Now,
and that's just one. That's one of hundreds, maybe thousands.
Of thousands, yes.
Yeah.
Of thousands.
Goodness. Wow. That is amazing.
How come students aren't being taught this in geology classes?
Right. Man. That's mind-blowing. That's the power of water.
Yeah, the power of water, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Billy,
you mentioned the water spewing up into the atmosphere. So is that what then created the enough atmospheric activity for rain?
Yes. You got it. You got it right there. That's why You have a singular event. You can explain tsunamis. You can explain over the land gigantic floods, and
Mm-hmm.
you can explain prolonged rainfall.
Yeah.
All of
Gotcha.
those things.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I've got
Wow.
one here. Yeah.
Jeez,
Look at
look at that.
this monster is stranded 400 feet above the modern Columbia River on a
Mm-hmm.
ridge. So that means that the water was up to this thing was being carried along in the water. As the water began to finally drain away, this thing stranded on the hillside.
Mm.
Right? I mean, look at
Yeah,
that thing. That's
that's
gigantic.
massive.
So
Yeah.
you got to think about what kind of size of iceberg. Well, you're talking about an iceberg like a tanker ship size.
Yeah.
Then you got to go, well, what kind of flow of water is going to float an iceberg the size of a tanker ship?
Yeah. Quadrillions of tons of water.
Yeah.
Wow.
And look at this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just sitting alongside the road
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yeah.
scattered over the fields. Literally, Billy, over thousands of square miles. You can find this
Yeah.
stuff.
Wow.
And so I was about to say, I can't wait to see the look on your face when we're out in the field and you're standing there looking at
Yeah.
this stuff real time.
Yeah.
Can I be
Wow.
there for that?
Oh yeah, please. This is amazing, man. This is my kind of stuff. I love this. You know, I'm an explorer, man. I go out. I spent 9 months in hotels last year. That's how much traveling I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I got to hand it to you. I've spent a lot of time in hotels, and I don't mind that too much. The part that I don't like is the flying part.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's
The
boring.
Atlanta airport is one of the busiest, most congested airports on the planet.
Horrible.
Standing for 2 hours in those security lines, and then,
Mhm.
you know, I was raised in the wide open prairies of rural Minnesota,
Mm.
and one of my main phobia all my life has been claustrophobia. I don't like
Yeah.
being in confined spaces.
Mhm.
I like being in the wide open spaces. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back in the day, it was okay. You know, before 9/11, all of that,
Mhm.
you know, but all that security shit. I mean, are you old enough did you
Oh yeah.
fly?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. I'm
so
54.
no, get out of here.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm a grandpa.
no shit.
I've got
Oh,
5 grandkids. Yeah.
do you really?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
How old are they? If I can ask, just
Yeah. 7, 6, 3, 2, and one's maybe a 1.5.
okay. Well, the older couple of them, I guess. I'm just thinking, how soon can we get them out in the field?
Right. Yeah, I know. I'll bring Skylar. She's the oldest. I'll bring Skylar with me. She's 7 now, going on 8. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Give her. Listen, the youngest we've had kids was 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great for kids, man.
Yeah, it is. Now, that was the first one. We had a lady. We were doing a tour of the Cumberland region here, up near like Tennessee and Kentucky, that area up in there,
Mhm.
in the plateau country up there, which is pretty incredible itself. This lady called. She says, you know, I'd really like to come, but I've got a 9-year-old or 8-year-old. No, she was 9, a 9-year-old daughter, Sophie, and she, you know, I can't leave her behind, you know. So, what's your policy on kids? And I said, well, we haven't had any kids, but we're totally cool with it. We're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Let
Yeah.
me bring her. I think she'd have fun. So
Mhm.
she ends up bringing her, and I can still remember the first day or two, she was very shy. She didn't say much, you know.
Yeah.
We've got the tour buses that hold like 15 people. I think we've got
Yeah.
3 of them, but by the third day, she's laughing, joking, playing
Nice.
tricks on people, totally comfortable, totally interacting. And she's been on two tours additionally to that. I think
Wow, that's a
now she's
blessing.
probably at least 11, maybe 12 by now.
Mhm.
But
Beautiful.
she was just, we really connected. I by the time the second tour was over, I felt almost like she was my own grandchild in a way. And since then, we've had 3, 4, 5 other kids coming on the tours, and it's worked
Wow.
out great. We had one young man, I think he was 11, and he was
Mhm.
quite autistic, but he brought he was very into astronomy. So he brought his telescope. This was a tour we did out in Washington State, and we were staying at a very nice resort on Soap Lake.
Okay.
We have a really good arrangement with the owners of the resort because we did 2 tours out of there during COVID, and probably our 2 tours got them over the hump that they survived. Anyways,
yeah. Wow.
So anyways, this boy, I don't remember his name, but we would go out for the day and all of this. Then we would come back to the lodge, and we had catered meals. They would have a meal prepared for us when we came back, and we would eat the meal. And then right after dinner, he would go outside, and we had nice dark nights, and he would set up his telescope, find something cool to look at, and then we'd come out, and he would be like, the 10-year-old. He would get this professorial bearing. Well, we're going to look at the 4 moons of Jupiter, and he would explain, and the people would line up and look through the telescope. Yeah, totally loved it. Totally loved it. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
I want more of this because you know this, Billy, as well as I do. We've got to rescue the younger generation.
Absolutely. For sure. No doubt about that at all. That's the main goal because that's the future,
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do.
I'm definitely going to bring Skylar on one of your tours. I guarantee it.
I can't wait to meet Skylar. Skylar's 8?
Yeah, she'll be 8 by then. Yeah.
She will be 8. Okay. So 8 was, 9 was a turning point for me because 9 is where I became a small adult, and started thinking, because I remember 1960, I turned 9, and that was the Kennedy versus Nixon was running that summer of 60 for president. And I can remember very well, because up until that point, I really was completely oblivious to the world beyond my family, beyond my backyard, etc. At 9 years old, I became aware there's a larger world out there.
Right.
And I remember one day I was with my grandparents. We were living in Louisiana at the time, and they were strict Southern Baptists, and we got hauled off to church while we were living with them. They insisted we had to go to church, not once, but twice a week. Sunday morning wasn't good enough. We also had to go Wednesday evening, but it was a Sunday morning, beautiful day. I'm coming out, walking across the street of this very nice, beautiful church, downtown Alexandria, Louisiana.
Yeah.
I walked into the parking lot, and all of a sudden, I had this almost like out-of-the-body experience where I'm thinking, there's a purpose to life, and I'm here for a reason. And I just had this sense, this feeling.
Wow.
And it didn't last long. I mean, because quickly, we got in the car and there was talking. We were probably going to get Krispy Kreme donuts on the way home or whatever, which was the enticement to get us to go to church. Well, we'll stop and get Krispy Kreme donuts on the way home. So that became more important to me than the destiny of the world at that moment.
Right.
But I had that sense, and I was 9 years old.
amazing.
And from that point on, I had this greater awareness of that I was part of a larger world. So I can remember very clearly the election, that Kennedy won. And then from that point on, I became aware. Of course, 63, 2 years and some later, he was assassinated. By that time, I had hit adolescence, and I'm in middle school. And like so many people, that Kennedy assassination was like a total shock to America.
Yeah.
That was a turning point because, in a way, we could say it was like our loss of innocence.
Yes.
Now, the Cold War is going on in the background. Soviet Union and America are testing the hell out of nuclear bombs, right?
Yeah.
But most of that is in the background for people. But when Kennedy was assassinated, it was just like a shock. You talk to anybody who was alive at that point, it wasn't just a little kid, they can tell you, like I can tell you I was in third hour art class. Class had just started. I got up from my art table and I was going to the supply room to get my supplies out. I'm about halfway there. All of a sudden, the loudspeaker comes on. Well, the loudspeaker didn't come on in the middle of the day. It was for homeroom, the announcements, right? All of a sudden, the loudspeaker comes on, and it's the news. And like everybody stops, and what is this? And then we're all listening. Even the teacher, is, what is this? Something unprecedented. and they're saying, yes, he's been transported to whatever Bethesda Hospital, and we're all listening and figuring out, yes, the president has been shot, et cetera, and it's like, whoa.
Wow. Shocking.
Boom.
Yeah.
And it was shocking. And this happens in November, and I can still remember very clearly how Christmas holidays was very depressed and dark that year because the shock of that was still hanging over us. So there was this very kind of depressed, morose mood in the country. Christmas was just not a time of joy and festivity because we're still recovering from this shock. And in fact, the shock lasted into the new year, and Americans were ripe and ready for something to get us out of that and bring us back to something fun, the darkness. And you know what it was?
What?
You know what did it? I'll tell you what did it. Ed Sullivan Show in February, the Beatles.
Wow.
That's what did it.
Wow.
Like all of a sudden, okay, maybe we can put this behind us. We can bring light and joy and fun into our lives again.
Yeah, yeah.
And literally, that's what did it.
Wow.
And it's even more interesting when you begin to look at the greater cosmic picture that's going on. Because you may know this. You ever heard of the curse of the Oval Office? Every president since, who was it? 1840.
Van Buren?
Might have been Van Buren. I don't think it was Van Buren, but it was 1840, 1860, 1880, 1900, 1920, 1940, 1960. Every president that took office on that 20-year cycle died in office. Reagan was the exception.
Yeah,
right?
he almost died.
He did. He almost died. Right.
Yeah.
He did. But you know what's interesting about that is that Jupiter has a roughly 12-year cycle around the sun. Saturn has a roughly 30-year. It's a little shorter.
Yeah.
So Jupiter laps and conjuncts Saturn every 20 years. And during each of those campaigns, as those presidents were campaigning and taking office, was under a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction.
Wow.
And the overtaking of Jupiter, the young king, overtaking Saturn, the old king, that's what it symbolizes.
Yeah.
It symbolizes the rise of the new king, right? And then many ancient cultures had their kings would assume powers, assume the throne under a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. It was always very prominently, clearly visible in the night sky.
Yeah.
In some cultures, even at the end of that 20-year cycle, the king was assassinated deliberately, and then the new king would take power, assume the throne. Later, a substitute. They would kill first some just common person instead of the king. Then they did away with that, and they would sacrifice an animal.
Right.
Which is probably better because, if you sacrifice a cow or a bull, then you can have barbecue afterwards.
You can eat
right?
it. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So,
but it almost seems as if these high level elites obviously know this historical information and kind of mimicked it during this run of presidents here in our modern times.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Possible.
It's a good question. It's a good question.
Yeah.
But if you look at the much bigger, say, astrological context, that conjunction in the 1961 was in I forget where it was, and the 1980 one was in Libra, right? Okay, so in 1960, at the same time that Kennedy was campaigning for presidency, the Beatles formed. So in England, the Beatles come together, become a band at the same time Kennedy is running for office.
Right.
By the time he gets assassinated, they're on the verge of superstardom, right? What launched him into superstardom was their appearance on Ed Sullivan.
Show.
In February.
63.
Yeah. 60. Well, now it's 64.
64. Okay.
because
Oh,
Kennedy,
because the
November
year had
63.
November into January, then boom, February. Okay, gotcha.
Yes, yeah. They
Yeah.
totally dominated the charts. They opened the
Mm-hmm.
door for the so-called British invasion, which
Mm-hmm.
took over the American radio, and every kid in America is now listening to British bands and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, then, look what happens. Kennedy is assassinated. The Beatles rise to prominence. They break up. Now, fast forward to the next Jupiter-Saturn conjunction,
Mm-hmm.
1980.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what happens? Like you said, Reagan almost got assassinated, but he survived it, right? Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is in Libra, so an astrologer would tell you the effects of this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction are going to be most prominently felt in anything having to do with Libra.
Right.
So during that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, what happened? John Lennon, who was a Libra, was shot down on the street and assassinated.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
the things like this go much further than that, but it really does, to me, bear out the point that as above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's one thing to dismiss newspaper astrology, but when you get beyond that, there really is an interaction, I think, between the terrestrial realm and the celestial realm.
Yeah, everything is connected. Everything is
Yeah.
connected. Even the
Yeah.
human psyche,
Yep.
the moon cycles, it's all somehow interwoven together, you know? Wow.
Yep.
Wow. This has been an amazing podcast. Randall, man, you're a great human being, man. I really appreciate you. You know, I really
Oh,
appreciate
thanks,
you
man.
because,
I
yeah.
appreciate that you appreciate me.
Now, you know, just it's so refreshing to hear some of these perspectives from somebody like yourself that has done the work, that has put in the time, the effort, the energy, and you're not afraid to express yourself. You're not afraid to talk a little bit into the gray area where, you know, mainstream doesn't want to go. You know, it's what we need. We need this.
We do. We need. We need. I'm a firm believer in free speech. I'm a firm believer in some of the original ideals that America was founded on. We've been through some traumas and stuff, but ultimately, we do need to look to our past to learn from the past, both our successes and our mistakes, in order to come up with a realistic map for our future. And I think we're now brothers in that work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
our team is growing. It's growing month by month,
Yeah.
year by year. And I just wanted to get to that point that where now we're going to have enough influence because, like you said, we could go, one path leads to a golden age. The other path leads to oblivion.
Yeah.
Which one do we want to choose? We are at the crossroads, brothers and sisters out there listening. And we need to formulate strategies that are going to optimize and maximize our probabilities of creating a sustainable and successful civilization. And I think we can do it.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. We have everything we need to be able to do it, including now the real true knowledge, which is finally getting released to the world. You've been doing this for many more decades than me. I've been, talking about these topics since roughly around 2008, much earlier, just between small groups of people. But 2000 is when I started making a hard push in 2008 till now. I remember getting ridiculed and laughed at and attacked and everything else. And now pretty much the world is opening up to listen to what we have to say. It's a beautiful time to be alive.
Yeah. And getting attacked is good. You expect that. I mean, the opposition who wants to control them, they have a monopoly and they want to keep that monopoly. They want to control the flow of information. So we're kind of in a delicate, almost martial arts like situation here. We have to, dot every I and cross every T because they will look for things to use against us. And of course, anybody, Billy, who does the kind of research we do, it requires exploring, and we have to go off on tangents sometimes. And sometimes those tangents are dead ends. They don't lead anywhere. We have to backtrack. Well, they'll try to use whatever they can against us to discredit us, but we've got to rise above it and realize that they're no better situated. In fact, when it comes down to the facts of the matter, we have the upper hand.
Yeah, true. So true. Because we're putting in the real work.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why they're getting desperate.
Yeah.
That's why they're so, attacking Graham Hancock. Oh, he's a white supremacist. He's a Nazi. He's a racist. He's promoting conspiracy. It's ridiculous. But what it shows is, what do they got?
Yeah, nothing.
If that's all they can do, what do they got?
Yeah.
Not much.
Yeah. Not much. Not much. Right. I love Graham Hancock. I respect his work. He's an amazing researcher. He's laid down a lot of groundwork for people like myself to rise up, you know, and talk on these topics, as well as your work, Eric Von Daniken. Everyone's work is like pieces of a puzzle that just support the other pieces. And we're creating a great picture. We're creating this mosaic that everyone's finally getting a chance to finally see an idea, a glimpse into what may have happened in the ancient past. And like you said, once we understand what truly happened, or as close to it as possible, we won't create the same mistakes in the future, because the past is prologue. So now we can move into a much brighter, stronger future, understanding and knowing where we came from, who we are, what our mission is on this planet, and how we can then collaborate, work together, and head into the next golden age where we deserve to be. And then not only that, but sustain a golden age. I think that's the ultimate goal of the universe. I think the ultimate goal of the universe is this grand experiment. How many civilizations can survive past the plague age? And if you can make it past the plague age, can you make it past the religious age? And if you can make it past the religious inquisitions, can you get past the nuclear age? And if you can get past the nuclear age, can you then get past the dogma and the political, I call it polytrickster age? If you can get past the polytricksters and corruption, then you might be able to move back into a golden age. But then the key is, how many civilizations that get past that polytrickster age can sustain an actual golden age, and how long can they sustain it for? Will they rise and fall again? And how many will they actually sustain that golden age? And no text that I've ever read anywhere has ever said you have to fall. It just said it happens.
Right.
So could this be the one that rises and sustains? That's the key.
Yeah, like Buckminster Fuller used to say, the universe wants us to be successful in spite of ourselves.
That's right.
We just have to learn to align ourselves with the greater forces. And I think we're doing that. And what you just said, 100% correct, 100% agreeable with my perspective on all this.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So on that note, I guess I'm going to jump, because we've been going 2.25 hours.
A good minute, yeah. Where can people find you online, Randall?
Right now, it would be, my podcast is Squaring the Circle, Randall Carlson. Howtube.com is handling all of my social media, along with Beckett Fusick, who you know, good mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
Both those guys are doing amazing work, and I'm also working with John Arthur Fiallo. You haven't met him, but he's been helping out on the technical end. But yeah, Squaring the Circle is the where I do my podcast, and I'm doing a whole series right now on the Younger Dryas to try to lay out, because a lot of people are talking about the Younger Dryas. Way more people. 20 years ago, nobody talked about the Younger Dryas because nobody had heard of it. So I'll give myself a little bit of credit. Graham Hancock gets a lot of credit, but it's become a sort of a topic of conversation. So I felt like, let's talk about the background of it, the context. Let's talk about the controversies, because it is really the defining story. It is the most extreme event to have engulfed this planet since we've been walking here. We need to understand it. So that's my purpose right now, but we cover a lot of things.
Nice.
So that's it, Squaring the Circle, and howtube.com, where a lot of my stuff is being hosted. You can also find me on all social media. I'm on Rumble, YouTube, all of that. So
beautiful, beautiful. I'll make sure all your links are in the caption of this video. Thank you all for hanging out in the live chat. Randall, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Look forward to the next time, Billy.
Yes, sir. See you soon.
All right.
All right, guys. That was Randall Carlson. Oh, wow. Amazing. Thank y'all for hanging out tonight. I got a couple more announcements I want to make with you all tonight in reference to some good things going on. And I just want to kind of just a very short summary of the topic tonight. We were talking about some forbidden geology. And why would that geology we talked about tonight be forbidden? it would be forbidden because we're mentioning or referencing the potential existence of an ancient Atlantean culture that was highly technologically evolved and potentially was a global civilization, and in my opinion, potentially even an interplanetary civilization. In other words, they were able to go between planets even. And the Ring City, this massive Ring City, which Randall has been doing a lot of research on, the potential of it being there in that location. There's a lot of potential evidence. You know, it's a hypothesis. He's been spending a lot of energy and time, and he's got a lot of compelling evidence that the Ring City may have been there. You know, it's just mind blowing to finally get some potential palpable evidence that you know, this civilization is not just a fantasy. And once the work like what Randall Carlson is doing is eventually proven, you know, then a lot of the stories and a lot of the quote unquote myths, they don't become myths anymore. They become reality. They become history, and things that need to be looked at as potential history. It just changes everything. It really changes everything. And it shows, again, instead of going, oh, these cultures have myth floods and this culture has a myth flood and this culture has a myth flood, the work he's doing and what he even showed tonight is showing these floods. We have geological evidence. We have the physical evidence. You can go out and touch the evidence of this global flood. You can see the evidence of the global flood pretty much just about everywhere. And we have now also from him the understanding of how the global flood actually happened coming out of this ice age. All right. So all the science was there, all the geology was there. And it really connects a lot of dots, and it makes a lot of sense how this flood could have encompassed most of the planet and killed most of the people and most of the animals. It was a real thing that really happened, and we have the actual evidence. And like you said, they're not teaching this level of it in school. They just kind of overlook it. But this is the real science. This is the real geology, and this is the real history. So amazing to have Randall Carlson on. He's a great talker, a great speaker. When I have guests on that can really carry their own, you know, he's a master of his craft. I don't overtalk them. I saw a couple of people in the chat were asking, you know, we want to hear a little bit more from Billy. You know, Randall Carlson coming on my podcast is an absolute honor. And so, you know, for me to want to talk over him or cut him off or cut out his train of thought or his epiphany moments that he was building to would be a travesty. So when you have somebody, when you have a guest that can get on and carry their own like that and has the real knowledge, sometimes you just got to sit back and let them cook, man. Let them get in that crock pot. You know what I'm saying? Just let them cook, you know, and that's how I like to do my interviews. If I don't have to, I can judge and tell the ebb and flow of the conversation. But when it comes to a man who has that much immense knowledge and we only have a short period of time to get out what's on his mind, you know, and for me to just get him on the podcast alone, just amazing. So it was an honor. I'm looking forward to doing some more work with Randall Carlson, and I'd love to be involved in anything he has. And I'm definitely going to come to one of his tours and bring my grandkids with me, because nothing like getting some education and some knowledge from a very young age in geology, because geology is like looking back in time. You are literally peering back into the past. Right now, today, it's the only form of a real time machine that we actually have that can go take you to the past from the modern time. Okay. Now, a couple of things I just want to wrap up with tonight is I am having we've been having a phenomenal showing inside of our Forbidden Knowledge Academy. If you didn't know, if you're here for the first time, I have a Forbidden Knowledge Academy, and it's been doing great things. Over 1,500 people are in there now, learning, growing, thriving together. And a lot of people keep asking me about mentoring and my private mentoring program, which I've kept quasi-private over the years because I only handle about 20 to 30 people per year. And I've opened it back up again, and we're taking on a few more people. So it's my 4BK Wealth Ascension Blueprint program. It's a 12-week journey where I'm mentoring you for 12 immersive weeks. It's a full experience, and you have to be coachable. You have to be willing to kind of be vulnerable too, and be very candid and open with yourself. And if you fit that kind of criteria, you might be a person for my 4BK Blueprint Ascension program. I'm only taking 20 serious people. 20 serious people is my max on this program right now. And I've done this program now for the last 2.5 years. Created, some people don't really care about money, but that's irrelevant because I know every time I bend my elbow at the hinge, I've got to pay money to get this food in my mouth. I have to buy that food somewhere. So it's not about money, it's about abundance. But I've created several millionaires already out of this program. The program has also revolutionized and changed some people's lives from where they were to where they are now. And a lot of people have seen great results, and the testimonials that are on the site just speak for themselves. They're non-solicited testimonials. And so it's a premium mentorship program, but the key is you have to show up on time. I don't tolerate people being late. I don't tolerate people not showing up. If you're there, not paying attention, those kind of things. If you schedule a meeting or a consultation call, which is free, the consultation call is free, you got to show up to the call. That's one of the most important things. One of the very first things we look at as to seeing if you even in the same frequency that we're on, myself and my coaching team. And if you meet the criteria and you're ready to move, you can apply for this coaching call with my team. And we'll see if you're a good fit for us and if we're a good fit for you. Okay, so you can book that coaching call. I'm going to drop the link in the live chat right now. Some people may be interested in it. Some people might not be interested in it. And guess what? That's okay. It's not for everybody. But some people want to be in my mentoring program. So I offer the opportunity for that from time to time. It's not something that I do all the time. It's from a time to time program. I open it up and I close it. I'm dropping the link right down in the live chat. So if you want to register for a free call or consultation, and remember, this is not just one of these things where you just show up and you're going to get a whole bunch of knowledge and it's not going to cost you any kind of a sacrifice. The mentoring program takes my personal time and my coaching team's time. So if you end up joining the mentoring program, you will have to make some type of a small financial sacrifice to be a part of it. We have to make people accountable for our time and theirs, and people that really do want to evolve and change within the program. So drop the link in the live chat again. Again, the most important thing is if you make the scheduled call, that you just show up and be on time. That's one of the most important things. I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want to waste my team's time as well. Okay, but I've dropped the live chat now. Also, the link to this mentorship is in the caption of this video. It's also a link in my bio. The 4BK Blueprint Ascension is in the bio, as well as the audio. When the audio eventually comes out, the link will be there in the audio. Okay, but we're going to cap it at 20. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. It's been a great night. If you didn't get my book yet, make sure you get my new book. I could take this down now. Manifestation Codes. This is a #1 bestseller. Manifestation Codes. It became a bestseller in 4 days for Forbidden Knowledge. And I've been reading from this book from time to time in some of my podcasts. Even earlier today, I was reading from the book, and people were just blown away by the transformational information in this book. If you're looking to manifest, if you're looking to take yourself spiritually, consciously to the next level, this book is just one of the ones that you can take this book, apply the knowledge, do the exercises that I give you in this book, and you're guaranteed to see a change, a positive change in your life. And that's the Manifestation Codes, available on Amazon or on the Forbidden Knowledge website. But you can just go to Amazon, type Billy Carson, and you'll definitely be able to get access to that. And one last thing before you go, for the Forbidden Tours, people have been asking, what's your next tour? What's your next tour, to these ancient sites? Okay, I'm going to drop the link to the next tour here. And for a limited time, only for this holiday season, you can actually reserve your spot on one of my tours for $444. Okay, I'm dropping the link right now to 4bk.tours. It's just dropped in the live chat, 4bk.tours. If you want to lock in a spot, you can come on the next Forbidden Tour. The next Forbidden Tour is going to be Egypt. And that'll be Egypt 2026. It'll be in the summer this time. I've been doing the tours in October, and a lot of teachers and educators and some people who only get their vacation time in the summer have been asking me like, hey, can you do something in the summer instead of October? And so we actually now added a summer tour. So you can come on the 4BK Forbidden Tour, and that will be in the summer, starting in June, the end of June of 2026. Okay. So we listened, we appreciate you, we listened, and we created the tour that most people were asking for. Okay. So that they can actually get a chance to take this journey and have a transformational trip that will change their life. It's 4bk.tour, tours, I believe, .tours. Let me just test this link out to make sure it's working properly. It's either tour or tours, tour with a no S or tours with an S. Let me just shake it right quick, make sure I'm dropping the right link for y'all. Yeah, but tours with an S. Okay, good. So I'll drop the link in the live chat again. 4, the number 4, bk.tours. That's the actual website, 4bk.tours. You can go there for a limited time. You can actually just reserve your spot so that you don't lose it. Okay, because some people just, listen, financial things are just crazy right now financially. And so we understand that. And so you can lock your spot in for $444, and you can work on a payment plan to catch up on your payments up until the tour itself. Not too close, because we got to buy your tickets and airline tickets. We got to buy your tour tickets for the locations we're going to. We have to pay for our VIP access for each individual person to some of the sites, because we do private visits. That costs extra money. We have to pay for the Nile cruise. We have our own ship, and it's only the Forbidden Knowledge family on the ship. Nobody else is on the boat. So we take the whole boat for the Forbidden Knowledge family. We pay that in advance. And of course, we lock in all the food and meals. And of course, our black tie party inside of one of the ancient temples. That's another thing we lock in. That costs us like $40,000. So we lock that in as well. Okay. It comes out of our profits, but everyone has a great time. So it's worth it. It's worth it to be able to just make less money and give everyone a transformational experience. Most people won't do that on the tours. They will definitely not going to spend their profits to give y'all a party with chefs and red carpet and dancing and music and everything else. It's just not going to do it. But we do it because we don't care about the money. It's about the experience. Okay. And so hopefully you can come on one of my Forbidden Tours. If you ever went to my Better Business Bureau reviews or my Trustpilot reviews, you'll see over 400 testimonials from the Forbidden Tours. And every single one of them is talking about a transformational, life-changing trip. Okay? Life-changing. So that tour will be coming up towards the end of June. You can click the link I'm dropping in the live chat. Get all the information on the Forbidden Tour, the next Forbidden Tour of Egypt, coming up in June of 2026. All right. We have a few more tours this year coming up. Next year, I should say, coming up. We've got Australia coming up. We've got Egypt, Bosnia, and that's where the Bosnian Pyramid Complex is located. We've got Turkey, Egypt again, and then Mexico. So it's a full year of tours. I'll be on the road again in 2026, spending a lot of my time in the jungles and the deserts, okay? That's what I do, jungles and deserts, but I'm really excited about it. Yeah, it's gonna be a great year. 2026 is gonna be a huge transformational year, and I'm looking forward to getting out to Australia. So what's up? Good day from South Australia, because I'm coming down there for another walkabout very soon. I'll be there in March. I'm taking people on tour to see the Gosford glyphs. The Gosford glyphs, if you don't know, are a set of Egyptian hieroglyphs, proto-Egyptian hieroglyphs in Australia in the outback, which I've been there. That was 2020, the last time I was there. And these glyphs are just amazing. So on one side of the wall, you have the Egyptian, and on the other side, you have what they call Pleiadian glyphs. And those Pleiadian glyphs have never been deciphered by anybody on Earth up until now. Nobody. The Aboriginals say that those glyphs were left by Pleiadian visitors. And they say in their verbal handed down history for thousands of years that they were seeded on this planet by Pleiadians. I cover some of this in my TV series, my docuseries, Anunnaki Ancient Secrets Revealed, where I talk about the Pleiadians, the Pleiades, and the connection to a lot of these indigenous cultures all around the world and what they had to say about the Pleiadians. and what they had to say about the ancient war in the Pleiades as well. So it's a great docuseries. It's called Anunnaki Ancient Secrets Revealed, and you can watch it on 4bk.tv. That's 4bk.tv, or just go to your app store and get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app. Okay, get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on your app store. And I'll drop one last thing I want to drop to you before I get out of here. I think it's very, very important, extremely important. If you want to be a part of Forbidden Knowledge and you want to own shares of Forbidden Knowledge, we're coming to the very, very end of the last opportunity for you to own shares of Forbidden Knowledge. I'm dropping a link in the live chat right now. And we have a lot of exciting things going on. If you Google the press releases for Forbidden Knowledge, you'll see that we're working closely with a publicly traded company called Sabanic. And the last press release, they talked about doing a spinoff of Forbidden Knowledge to take us to NASDAQ, and also taking an equity stake in Forbidden Knowledge. And we have a lot of new news coming out. I just sat down with David Mirsky of Sabanic just maybe last weekend when I was in Scottsdale, Arizona. We have some new press releases coming out, some of our new collaborations and new projects that we're working on together, the collaboration we're working on together with Sabanic. Again, a publicly traded company, SNNC is their symbol. So a lot of new news coming out. We're really excited about it. So if you want to own shares of Forbidden Knowledge right now, that link I just dropped in the live chat will give you the opportunity to pledge for some shares, okay? Anyway, it's been a great night. We had reached around 1,600 people or so in the live chat at one time. Thank you again, Randall Carlson, the great living legend, came on my podcast. I'm so excited. It's an honor, and I look forward to working with him and doing other projects with him in the future. And of course, I'm starting to see him at most of the conferences now, so I look forward to seeing him again in person at the next conference run by Robert Dakota. All right, I'll catch y'all later. Thank y'all for hanging out tonight. I'll be back again tomorrow. Peace.